Ten charged with various offenses in connection with anti-parallel trader protest. Word that the Shenzhen-Hong Kong Stock Connect is expected to be launched in the second half of the year. And in Australia, Tony Abbott survives a leadership challenge.
Good evening. The police arrested 13 people in yesterday's chaotic protest against grey goods traders in Tuen Mun. 10 of them have been charged with unauthorized assembly, obstructing police from carrying out their duties, or assaulting police. The 10 accused, aged between 16 and 36, appeared at Tuen Mun Magistracy this morning. The case has been adjourned until April 9th, and all were granted bail. 9 of them are banned from the mall where scuffles broke out, and a Tin Soi Wai resident is barred from entering Tuen Mun for the time being. Hundreds of people responded to calls made on the internet by the so-called local rights groups Civic Passion and Hong Kong Indigenous to protest against grey goods traders in Tuen Mun yesterday. They complained that traders push up prices in the area by buying necessities there to resell on the mainland. Police used pepper spray to control the situation as chaos ensued. Some shops affected by yesterday's trouble say they understand the plight of residents in the area, but called the protesters irrational and unreasonable. A Tuen Mun district councillor said he had warned the government a couple of years earlier about the impact of mainland shoppers on local inhabitants. Diane To has the story.
It was business as usual for the shops in this Tuen Mun Mall today. Red paint that was splashed here by an angry rallier yesterday was cleaned up by this morning. Some stores that focus their business on mainland visitors had several security guards standing by outside. Many of them had to close up shop early during yesterday's chaos. This pharmacy said there has been an increase of mainland shoppers, with about half of its customers now mainlanders. It was one of the stores targeted by the protesters. This employee described the demonstrators as irrational troublemakers who were provocative and cursed at shop staff. Tourism Board Chairman Peter Lam called the protesters a small group of people ruining Hong Kong's stability for personal agendas.
It's something that obviously will be not something we welcome. It's not very good for Hong Kong image in general, but I can understand it's also jeopardizing the relations between Hong Kong and Chinese peoples.
District Councillor Lam Chung Hoi said he began warning the government 2 or 3 years ago about mainland shoppers' impact on residents' lives. Especially around the Lunar New Year, there's really a huge number of them, he said. Lam said the negativity has been piling up over time and that the government should have done something earlier on. Saying that many of them come with huge suitcases, Lam also criticised a bus company for not enforcing the luggage size restrictions on visitors who take cross-border trips between Tuen Mun and Shenzhen Bay. Diane To, TVB News.
Chief Executive Len Cheng-ying says the Shenzhen-Hong Kong Stock Connect is expected to be launched in the second half of the year. Leung pointed out that his government has been working closely with Guangdong authorities to provide more opportunities on the mainland for Hong Kong people.
Next month, the central government will formally announce the establishment of the pilot-free trade zones in Guangdong, Fujian, and Tianjin. The Guangdong zone will cover Nansha, Hengqin, and Qianhai. Given our long-standing business ties in the mainland, particularly Guangdong, the new free trade zones are sure to expand opportunities for Hong Kong companies.
HSBC and its former CEO, Stephen Green, are under fire as leaked documents show that HSBC's Swiss private bank helped its wealthy clients evade taxes and conceal millions of dollars. Documents stolen by an IT worker in 2007 detail more than 30,000 accounts holding $119 billion US. They allegedly show that HSBC helped clients in more than 200 countries evade taxes and provided accounts to international criminals. Britain's tax authorities have identified more than 1,000 tax evaders from the documents. It has recovered more than £135 million in payments, but so far only one person has been prosecuted. In response, HSBC said it acknowledges and is accountable for past compliance and control failures.
Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott says his government is determined to do better. Abbott has survived an internal government challenge to his leadership despite a revolt by dozens of colleagues that leaves him politically damaged.
I'm being tested. That's the way it is. Now, I am determined to do better in these tests in the next few months than I have in the last couple of months.
Lawmakers in the ruling Liberal Party rejected a motion calling for a ballot for party leader and deputy. Abbott's government is enduring sagging approval ratings, but he said he should stay in charge of the government until elections next year.
Iraq is planning to launch a major ground offensive against Islamic State. This as Jordan confirms it has already destroyed 20% of ISIS military capabilities and continues to pound their key positions.
Jordan has launched 56 airstrikes against ISIS over the past 3 days. The targeted attacks have pounded the extremist group's weapons depots, training centers, and military barracks. Action taken just days after Islamic State showed video proof it had burned to death a captured Jordanian pilot. Now, Iraqi forces are adding fuel to the Jordanian fire. They plan to launch an aggressive military action against ISIS by land using ground troops. U.S. General John Allen made the announcement in Amman. He said 12 brigades from Iraq are already trained and equipped for the offensive, plus a squadron of F-16 fighter jets from the United Arab Emirates has arrived in Jordan to support the anti-ISIS fight. These Free Syrian Army fighters insist flushing ISIS out of Kobani and other key areas in Syria means the group is under major strain. Islamic State's high-profile defeat by Kurdish militia has cost ISIS 2,000 fighters. Even though bombardment by the U.S.-led coalition has somewhat crippled ISIS, military strategists insist ground forces are desperately needed. Islamic State still has a firm grip over its Syrian stronghold in Raqqa and territory stretching all the way to the other half of its caliphate in Iraq. The status of a young American hostage who ISIS claimed was killed in a Jordanian airstrike last week remains unknown. But those in Kayla Mueller's hometown of Arizona continue to pray for her safe return.
Let's continue to hold on to hope. But as we're doing so, let's remember to pray for Kayla.
Since ISIS has already killed 2 Japanese hostages, Japan is taking drastic measures to protect their own. The government seized the passport of a freelance cameraman slated to travel to Syria to report on the ISIS situation.
Egypt's cabinet has suspended the National Soccer League until further notice after at least 22 fans were killed in clashes with police outside a Cairo stadium. The move was announced late Sunday after riot police clashed with hundreds of soccer fans and fired tear gas to clear a narrow corridor leading to the stadium. The action set off a stampede. The riot happened at a match between 2 Cairo clubs. Egypt last suspended the league in 2012 after 74 fans were killed in rioting at a match. The violence sparked widespread outrage at the police and the Transitional Military Council then ruling the country. The stakes are high as the leaders of Germany, France, Russia, and Ukraine gear up for 4-way peace talks later this week in Belarus. The meeting on Wednesday comes as Russian-backed separatists gain ground in eastern Ukraine in a conflict that is taking a growing toll on the country. James Aiken reports.
It's the first sign of momentum in efforts to restore a ceasefire and broker a lasting peace deal in eastern Ukraine. The aim is to revive the much-violated peace plan both sides agreed to in Minsk last September and end a war that has now killed more than 5,300 people. The U.S. will not be directly involved in the talks as Washington continues to debate the need to arm Ukrainian troops fighting the separatists. European countries believe sending weapons to the Ukrainian military will not improve its chances against separatists with seemingly unlimited supplies of Russian military support.
The European Union as such is not meant to send weapons anywhere, and I would not expect to have a discussion on that with the member states in the near future.
For his part, Russian President Vladimir Putin has shown no sign of softening his stance over the crisis. He warned that Kiev must stop its military operation in eastern Ukraine and stop exerting economic pressure on separatist-held regions, or else, he says, Ukraine will be on a dead-end track fraught with catastrophe. Ukraine's economy, like Russia's, is already on the verge of catastrophe. Following a massive drop in its currency last week that stoked inflationary pressures, Ukraine has raised its key interest rate by a massive 5.5 percentage points to 19.5%.
Therefore, there was a huge increase in price of hard currency during the last week on the interbank exchange rate.
As the fighting continues, so too does the steady stream of Russian humanitarian assistance. Russian aid is becoming a necessity for a growing number of displaced Ukrainians facing rising inflation and diminishing security. James Aiken, TVB News.
Shares on the Athens Stock Exchange have opened sharply lower after Greece's new government vowed to seek bailout debt forgiveness despite pressure from European lenders to stick to austerity. In his inaugural address to Parliament yesterday, Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras laid out plans to dismantle Greece's cruel austerity program. In doing so, he's ruling out any extension of its international bailout and setting himself on a collision course with his European partners. He showed little intent to heed warnings from EU partners to stick to commitments of an already agreed to €240 billion bailout. Greek lawmakers plan to debate the new prime minister's policy statement and to hold a confidence vote at midnight on Tuesday. And still ahead in our newscast, a renewed push for the standardization of public holidays for all employees. Hong Kong Disneyland posts profits for the third consecutive year. And a skateboarding bulldog in Peru.
Struggling a bit, he's struggling, watch out.
A makeshift ER for tiger cubs.
So this animal's fighting for its life right now.
They're like something out of the military, but then deep down, they're doing all of this for a tiger.
Tuesday, Operation Snow Tiger at 8:30 on Pearl's Loving Nature.
Celebrate Chinese New Year in Macau. Rejoice with the magnificent Golden Dragon Parade, lion dance performances. Be greeted by the God of Fortune and our tourism ambassadors. And on the 3rd and 10th day of the Lunar New Year, don't miss the main event, the parade for the celebration of the Year of Ram. Touching moments. Experience Macau.
The time now is 7:44. The time check was brought to you by Seiko.
Welcome back. Government surveys